Well, you're probably not going to be surprised to hear this, even though this is heartbreaking and it sucks, but it appears like Joe Manchin is going to get his way again. So Andrew Perez, reporter for the Daily Poster, David Sirota's outlet, he tweets this, of course, and he's showing an article from Axios here. Senate Democrats settling on a 25% corporate tax rate. Between the lines, while Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, has made clear his preference for a 25% rate, he's far from alone. Democrats who've privately hinted they may be uncomfortable with going to 28% include Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, and John Tester of Montana. The Democratic dynamic is similar to the one about increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which was ultimately rejected by 8 Senate Democrats. Some of them talked about something closer to $11 an hour. Lesson number 7,462, that drawing red lines, being aggressive, and not taking no for an answer works. It just always happens to be the case that it's the corporate Democrats who do that. It's the right-wing Democrats who do that. You know who never draws those red lines and throws around their weight and threatens to tank a bill? The left. The left. And I mean all of the left. I mean Bernie Sanders, and I mean the Justice Democrats in the House. There literally was an article in Bloomberg the other week that we covered where they said in no uncertain terms, we are not going to do the Tea Party approach. We're going to try to cuddle up to the establishment and win that way. So in other words, we'll use the private pressure behind the scenes to beg and ask really strongly for the things that we want. And then if we don't get it, we'll vote for it anyway and then be cheerleaders for it anyway. That's what's happening. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This isn't up for interpretation. This is plain as day. It's right in front of you. Anybody can connect these dots. So stop and think about this, because this is just a microcosm of modern day politics in the United States of America. This story says everything. You go back to just 2016. You know what the nominal corporate tax rate was? 35%. Donald Trump gets in there and says, we're going to cut it to 21%. By the way, at the same time, cutting taxes for the wealthy in other ways, 83% of that tax bill's benefits went to the top 1%. It was just a total scam of a bill to give more money to the wealthy. That's all it was. It's class warfare against regular people. That's all it was. So Trump cuts it from 35% to 21%. Biden runs for office and he says, I'm going to raise the corporate taxes back up. So Democrats go, hooray! Voters, go, hooray! What the party whispers is, we're going to raise it back up to 28%. It was just 35%. The nominal rate was 35% in 2016. Granted, there were all these loopholes, but the nominal rate, which is the rate on paper, was 35%. He cuts it to 21%, and your response is, we'll do 28%. So he's already, basically his position from 2016, Biden's is, I'm for a corporate tax cut. At a time when corporations are paying a historically low percentage of the tax burden. He says, I'm for a corporate tax cut. I don't like 35, I like 28. This is a Democrat. This is why I call him a moderate Republican. You think I do that because, I'm joking or I'm doing it because it's accurate. That's why I call him a moderate Republican, because he votes like a moderate Republican. He acts like a moderate Republican. So 2016, Joe Biden looks at the 35%, says, I don't like that, I want to cut it. That's dumb. So we go from 35% all the way down to 21%. Biden says, I want 28%. And then what happens? Well, you just defined the terms of the debate and you set up the Overton window. And so in comes the even further right-wing Democrats. Joe Biden's a corporate Democrat. Jordan Biden, what the fuck did that come from? Joe Biden is a centrist. Joe Biden is a moderate Republican. And then you have Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema chime in. They're even to the right of Biden, and they go, I'd like to have my shitty voice heard now, my corrupt voice heard now, and we'll get to another story on that later because their corruption is proven. 25%. And it looks like the rest of the Democrats are going to go, well, all right, what are you going to do? If they're saying they're drawing a red line and we get nothing or 25%, I guess we're going to get 25%. I guess that's what we're stuck with. So the other Democrats are going to go along with it. And ultimately, many of them will be genuinely happy at the fact it's 25%. So the Democratic Party, that's supposed to be the left party in America, was for a 10% corporate tax cut at a time when corporations are already making out like thieves and bandits and regular people are getting screwed. 2016, the corporate tax rate was 35%. The Democratic Party wanted it to be 25%. And you wonder why the left is angry and bitter and mad and has had enough and is fed up and is turning our guns on anybody and everybody around us, metaphorically. You know, we're going after everybody because nobody is fighting for us. Even the people who nominally agree with us when it comes to ideology. It doesn't matter because they have no strategy and they have no fight and they have no backbone, so they're never going to win. And they're doubling down on the strategy that has proven to not work. Private pressure and writing letters and saying, please give us some crumbs, good sir. To which the establishment responds, no. And they go, okay, I'll vote for the bill anyway. Thank you very much, good sir. That's where we are. This is a microcosm of U.S. politics. For the past decades, this is what's been going on. So there's a lot of blame to go around here. I think Biden is corrupt and serving corporations, which is why he wanted that 28% rate. I think Manchin and Sinema are even more corrupt. And again, I'll prove it later. We have a story detailing that, which is why they wanted it 25%. So, blame the corrupt ones first and foremost. But notice the tactics of the corrupt ones. It's hardball. And it works. It always does. Because Joe Manchin will tank your must-pass bill in a second if he doesn't like it. But you know who never does that? The left. So there's also blame to go around there because even the people who nominally agree with us will never play this kind of hardball. And so they'll never get their way. And so really it's just all they're there for is performative virtue signaling. They're like the Washington Generals that are, their whole point is to lose to the Harlem Globetrotters. That's the whole point of the left in Congress and the left in the Senate. They're never going to draw red lines and they're never going to fight. And this is always going to be the result. Of course I'm going to hate them. Of course I'm going to turn on them. You'd be an idiot not to turn on them. They're not doing their job. They just virtue signal on Twitter all day and put up no fight. So anyway, what would you have to do? What would you have to do if you were on the left in order to fight on this? And we haven't even discussed the $15 minimum wage that they're now talking about 11. You would have to be the one to say, no, I have a block of 12 or however many Justice Democrats or left-wing Congress people, and we are going to vote as a block. None of us are going to vote for your shitty bill unless our priorities are in it, and here's what we're demanding. If they did that, there are more of the progressives than there are of the hardcore right-wing Democrats, the Sinemas, the Manchins. And so if you held steady like the Tea Party did, you can get a lot of your priorities in the bill. And guess what? Sometimes you won't. And when that's the case, tank the fucking bill. Shoot the hostage. You have to be willing to show that you're going to do that in order to be taken seriously, in order to get a seat at the table. But they're not going to do that. Because they don't... here's the saddest part of it all. In the case of the people who actually agree with us on ideology, they don't want the media to hate them and shit on them 24/7 because they're complete narcissists. They're totally selfish. They care about their own image more than they care about actually fixing problems. So the media would hate them, and leadership would turn on them and hate them and retaliate, and they are too scared to deal with leadership in that scenario. Instead of, when leadership retaliates, you take the fight publicly and expose how corrupt the leadership is and take that fight head on. Nancy Pelosi's got a less than 30% approval rating, and you don't want to take on a fight with her? The dumbest thing I've ever seen, but this is how they operate. This is how they function. And also, now they know these people personally, and it's I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and so they genuinely see the good in these people, even though there's no good there when it comes to Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin and all these assholes. So that's where we are, perpetually losing. God, this story makes me so mad all the way around. I hate every aspect of it. Every aspect of it. Corporate tax rate was 35%. Trump cut it to 21% because he's a bitch to corporations also and massively corrupt. And then Biden says, no, 28%, which is still a cut from the 35%. The corporate Democrats, the right-wing Democrats step in and say, no, we want 25, and we're going to probably end up with 25. And then they're going to want you to pat them on the back and tell them they're amazing if/when they get this through. And there'll be another 7 articles calling Biden the new FDR. And you and I sit here and pull our fucking hair out and lose our minds. Guys, I can't. It's like a bad dream, and it never ends.